Hello everybody, my name is Jacob Collier and I'm a musician. Today I'll be playing and transforming a familiar tune through a variety of different emotions of increasingly abstract natures. The song, Londonderry Air, otherwise known as Danny Boy. I'll be playing this tune a few times, and as I'm doing so, emotions of increasing complexity will be fired at me in real time. The challenge will be to seamlessly transition from one emotion to the next without stopping playing the tune. I have not been shown these emotions in advance, so what you'll be seeing is a real-time intuitive musical process as I try to explain or describe these emotions one after the other. After each performance, I'll be doing a boatload of musical analysis, describing what's going on in my brain as I'm making these musical decisions. I've never attempted anything like this before in my entire life. I'm quite excited, a little bit nervous. I think it's going to be really challenging and it's going to be really fun. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so 3 different tiers of emotional complexity to work with, ranging from tier 1, the most simplistic of all the emotions, to tier 2, more abstract compound emotions, to tier 3, the least defined, most subjective states of all. Let's begin with tier 1. Here goes. So that was my attempt at describing 6 tier 1 emotions: happy, sad, angry, mysterious, triumphant, and serene. Let's take this apart. So with happy, we begin in the key of F major. And one thing you may notice is that I'm using lots of triads here. And when I say a triad, I mean like a 3-note chord, which is very self-assured. Overall, it feels joyous, it feels bright, it feels hopeful, it feels like something that resembles happiness. So generally speaking, it's pretty safe to assume that with major chords, things tend to feel more consonant, more positive, a little more comfortable. One might say happy, whereas with minor chords, things often feel less consonant, a little colder, sadder, more austere, especially when these chords are played quietly. Now, there is something rather solemn about these sounds. We're visiting a bit more of a transparent feeling. We're also slightly quieter, and we've ascended into the upper notes of the piano. I'm also experimenting here with a little dissonance. See this chord? I've got this little tension here between the G and the A flat. And interestingly, this tension here is almost like an inversion of this tension. This is a tension close together and this is a tension far away, both describing, I suppose, a different kind of sadness. But there's something quite tender, I suppose, about this repeated pattern. Very sad. Into anger. As you can see, I'm playing very loudly. I'm also playing very low on the piano now. I've ended into this dark and dangerous zone. And a lot of the notes are also dissonant, so they're not particularly within triads like they were with happy or sad. They are a law unto themselves. One of the challenges for me is how do I get from angry to mysterious? And so to climb out of it, I chose a scale which many of you guys will be familiar with just from watching films or seeing theatre shows, it's a sound called the whole tone scale. There is an equivalent distance between every note in the scale, and it's a scale sort of barren of tonality, and creates this extremely interesting sense of transparent wonder, mystique, kind of strangeness, a little bit of the bizarre. For me, mysteriousness is all about being suspended, almost like I'm viewing the world from above. Things don't make any sense, things are very confusing. But once I descend into being triumphant, the triads return, these big open sounds. I'm repeating each sound 3 times at the beginning of this. Ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba. It feels almost like a national anthem or something. Repeated notes, repeated chords that bring you back home to F major. But when we get to F major, we're very serene. So once the triumphantness has laid out the foundation for our return to home, what's left is the serene. And as you can see with this serenity, there's notes which are quieter, there's fewer notes, things are feeling delicate. It's just serene. Okay, so now it's time for tier 2. These emotions will be slightly less defined, slightly more abstract, and increasingly subjective. Let's give them a shot. I really enjoyed that tier. That was good fun. It was really challenging. It was way more challenging than tier 1. They're far more abstract and they're far less objective. And I found myself drawing far more on my musical intuition than on my musical knowledge. Let's see what we can make of it. So frightened. Lots of strange intervals, lots of odd sounds, a lot of distance between the lowest note and the highest note, chords which create dissonance between themselves and the melody. The feeling of general unsettlement. Things feel like they're going slightly wrong. The melody, which feels so familiar, is being disrupted and recontextualized in a very strange way. This transition from frightened to flirtatious, that's a difficult one. I can't think of a single time in my life, or maybe 1 or 2, where I've been really frightened and then straight away I've started to flirt with someone. It's like quite rare. It's quite an interesting thing to describe musically. So you can hear me sort of being overtly decorative here. I'm playing with parts of the melody, I'm making it fun, I'm stretching out the time, and over the course of the second half of this, I actually fall into a pocket, which I suppose gives way to dance, a sort of levity, I suppose, which one needs when one flirts, I can tell you. So this musical confusion has some things in common with the earlier frightenedness. I'm taking small fragments of the melody and I'm scattering them all over the place, all around the piano, high and low. But the difference here is that with confusion, things are feeling slightly more staccato and short and almost like they're creeping around. I'm sort of juggling all these different tonalities at once. It's like a sort of emotional tug of war. I can hear my ear being led in one direction and then me pulling that melody back, and then another direction in the other hand and pulling that melody back, reeling things out and reeling things in. It's a very confusing space. Having finally made it out of the confusion back to our starting happy key of F major, my left hand seems to be dropping all sorts of strange dissonant bombs. And so after being shell-shocked at that huge blast, it takes me a few seconds to recalibrate and find my feet again, but when I do, I'm in F sharp major. So it's almost like the right hand is saying like, oh wait, where was I? Let me get started all over again. Only to be disrupted yet again by another left hand blast. The left hand is determined to get in the way of the right hand. Oh, and finally, peace in B flat major. I've also returned to a consonant major tonality, which is reminiscent of happiness, I suppose. But there's something very calm about this, and it's very flowing. I've also reintroduced time. And there's a basic structure about that I suppose feels comforting. It feels like there's something within it that you can see form in, and you can lock into. Perhaps you can hide in or something. And see how I'm repeating the chords within the key center. It feels sort of cyclical, almost like you're being hugged with this warm blanket or something. It's lovely. The feeling of betrayal is such a delicate and subtle thing to describe, because too much consonance feels wrong, but too much dissonance feels wrong. It's a very careful balance between absence and silence and space and hollowness and things which are still there but feel like they don't belong, and there's this tension pulling between the right hand and the left hand throughout this section, which I think perhaps shows that feeling. It reminds me of things in my own life where things haven't been able to agree and they end up apart, and it feels awfully weird. And so with the left hand and the right hand having been unable to agree on something, the left hand just drops out and leaves the right hand hanging here at the end, which I suppose is as accurate a depiction of betrayal as I could have hoped to show. Okay, so it's time for our final tier of emotions. These are the most abstract emotions of all, extremely subjective, little defined, subtle combinations of simpler states, really open to interpretation. I don't know exactly what to expect, but we'll see where we end up on the other side. Here goes. challenge of accurately describing these spaces comes far less from the cerebral part of my brain and far more from the spontaneous one. In describing these 6 emotions, I'm drawing on an utterly different set of devices, experience, feelings, and knowledge from both of the previous 2 tiers. These are such abstract, open, fragile, delicate concepts to describe. There's space for me to bring my own interpretation to these things, which is a bit of a relief. That said, it was a huge challenge. Let's take a listen. So, seeing a long-lost friend, and you begin to feel comfortable within it. Ah, there's the long-lost friend, that D major low down. Feels like I've established a connection with something. I'm noticing elements of reassuring and serene. The diatonic major tonality cluster chord, the calming dynamics, the amount of space there is around the notes. And here, 2 moments of pause with a slight change in hue. This second chord slightly darker from the first. You see how I've introduced that B flat in the left hand? That removes your ear from the tonality of D major. Something has changed, something is altered, something is being viewed from a different light. And here, I'm pivoting from the long-lost friend to inevitability, and I'm using the C sharp to get there. The C sharp belongs in the key of A major, which is where we've been, but it also belongs in the key of F sharp major, which is where we're going. And so this C sharp is a bridge from one emotion to the next. Here comes the guilt. There's a sickening sort of weight to these chords, like an increasing amount of heaviness in these voicings. There's a lingering tension that you can't quite put your finger on, and each chord presents a different relationship with this top note, and they're all slightly uncomfortable, and they all feel heavy laden, and they all feel like they're trying to shift the weight from one place to another, and they don't feel quite right. It's a very interesting musical predicament to have found myself in. And even there, you see I add that E and it changes the whole compass of the thing. It creates this stodgy kind of blockade in the middle where something is stuck and it's forcing the chord to change, but the E is fighting the D sharp in the bass, and then there's this F sharp at the top. There's a kind of parallel camaraderie, but there's this lack of loyalty, which is very interesting. And each of these heavy, guilty chords is repeated. It's like it's embedding itself within the music somehow. The weight shifts from the D sharp, this closed chord, to an E, a more open chord. You've got E, B, and F sharp. It's like a fifths structure. Things are opening up and feeling more transparent. And here, a D major triad just to cleanse the palette. And this here is from the end of the tune, Danny Boy, and it's almost like a reminiscing of something coming back to you. It feels familiar, but it also feels like it's been slightly forgotten. And by the time we reach this F major, some peace has been found. It feels like I'm finding my way to a resting point, and F major is the resting point, followed by the C major, and back to F, the most peaceful of all keys. And this one note emerges, and with it and the repetition of it, I'm conjuring up all these different musical ideas and forces to express this Jacob Collier which is about to happen. And in true Jacobian style, this first chord of the Jacob Collier passage is a super, ultra, hyper Lydian chord. It's a chord stacked on top of a chord, stacked on top of a chord, stacked on top of a chord. At last, I'm liberated from these emotions and I'm just expressing something. It's loud, it's clear, all sorts of bundles of notes flying around all over the place. I guess I'm used to it at this point. And here's this joyous flurry in upwards direction. To continue the melody at the top, which resolves in this weird, surprising way. The A, which you thought was going to be part of F major, is part of F sharp minor. Can you believe it? And I suppose this poses the question, well, what is a perfect ending? I think for me, the ending for this particular improvisation draws upon some of the forgiveness and some of the happiness and some of the reassurance and the serenity of earlier on. And the notes are becoming quieter, the range is decreasing. I've entered back into this major tonality. You can hear these nice diatonic cluster chords. Things are settling down. It's time to make some kind of musical peace. There's nothing more perfect than that. these disconnected emotions one after the other kind of put me on the spot, and it revealed what my immediate musical palette was saying about me, and that was really interesting and strange and weird and cool. One of the greatest challenges and privileges of being a musician is the process of learning how to alchemize the forces in your life to create with. You learn to transform them into something which has form, structure, something which can be heard and understood, even believed, even by people who don't experience the emotions that you're drawing from in the same way as you. In some ways, an exercise like this is very far removed from the real world. Composers don't sit around trying to portray exact emotions on a list. It's not really what happens. But I do think that it's an interesting exercise, and it definitely gets you to think about what you make music using, like what materials are and what parts of your brain you're using to engage different elements of your language. A lot of the time, the most interesting music that I write comes from emotions that I don't really understand. And I think the process of trying to get inside them, not necessarily to control them or to explain them, but just to get inside them, is the most powerful thing I can do to be creative. By being thoughtful and nuanced around the choices that you make, you can add so much dimension to the music that you play and also the music that you listen to.